All right, hi everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started. First of all, we'll introduce ourselves. My name is Ryan Hazen. I'm an instructional technologist at Carroll College. And at Carroll, that means that I administer our self-hosted Moodle learning management system. I design and build classrooms. I do instructional design and coaching for our faculty. And I knock down classroom walls. Dan, why don't
on an everyday basis.
Yeah.
I'm Dan Case. I do academic technology at Carroll. So yeah, buy all the equipment, design the classrooms, work on, yeah.
Dan and I work very closely together. We're kind of like Bert and Ernie at Carroll. So let me frame how we sort of wound up with this. We had a major gift come our way. And the idea for this major gift was to create the Fermin Learning Commons. This is a transformative space in our library that's meant to encourage interdisciplinary thinking and put learning on display. So, you know, oftentimes we get these gifts and we're charged with making a space that's really beautiful for the donor to come and look at and have their name on. But we always try to tie what we're doing to our academic life first. So we always try to put academics first. We always try to put our students' intellectual development first. So here's where the Fermin Learning Commons fits in our sort of our workflow, our life of an assignment. First of all, the student receives an assignment in class, and then for this assignment, the student uses the library resources to conduct research, receives writing tutoring in the Writing Center, which is located in the Fermin Learning Commons space, and makes graphics using the material that we have available in the Learning Commons. After that, they receive presentation and communication tutoring in the Learning Commons. Again, we've got a communications faculty down there that's specifically there to do this. Records presentation in the studio in the space, and when they're finished, they have all kinds of artifacts of their learning. An essay, some graphics, a presentation, a video, all of those sorts of things that they can then use to submit it for class, first of all. Second of all, share it with potential employers. And third of all, store it in our institutional repository, which then creates a permanent record of their scholarship and puts it out there for people to access all around the world. And then gives us a chance to use those artifacts to assess our own program performance on the backside. So we want to look at what these students have done and say, you know, are we being successful? Are they having significant learning experiences? How can we improve it if we need to? So that's the sort of the quick explanation of what the Fermin Learning Commons is meant to do. Because it's, you know, when you build a space and you're trying to encourage students to do significant research in the library, it's hard sometimes for people. What is a Learning Commons anyway? Like, what is that? Why do you need to build it? And why should it cost so much money to do? So that's the idea. We had a major gift, but for us, this created a minor problem. The Fermin Learning Commons, where they wanted to put it downstairs in the library, was going to replace one of our favorite classrooms. If you attended NWMed a couple years ago, you've seen some of the classrooms that we build there. We call them Sandboxes. Dan, and I don't know what it's 2012 or something, came up with this idea that we have whiteboard walls all the way around the room and mobile furniture in them, and then the ability for these short throw projectors you can annotate over top of them, and you can like write on the whiteboards in the middle of the projection, which is awesome. And when you get faculty in there doing this, it fundamentally changes the way they think about teaching. Over here, we even have students. We even have students over here writing on the window of this room. I don't know if you can see that there. There's writing there on the window that he's been doing his math, and you can see it from the outside, and it's really cool because as you walk by, as you're just in the library doing stuff, you see students doing the significant work that they're there to do. So we love this classroom, but this is the space that we had slated to put in the Fermin Learning Commons.
Well, if you look at it, I'm going to go back real quick, Ryan.
Yeah.
So if you check, this is in our lower library. So when you walk downstairs in our library, there was a classroom right around the corner. And then if you notice here, it was just columns and then rows of stacks. And so we gutted that whole entire floor. We moved all the stacks out, stored them in a cross campus in an attic for a semester. That was our library, and we had moved stuff. So now we're moving everything back into that space. And so that's what we're talking about today, is that whole redesigned space.
So we asked ourselves, you know, we've got this major gift, we've got this minor problem.
So another thing I want to talk to you about here. So this is the space. What we did is, you know, they gave us so much money, we redesigned the space, designed it with some architects, and then they said, here's enough money for furniture. And what we wanted to do with the furniture is be diligent about what we're going to do first, and then also knock that off of students. I didn't want to buy a bunch of stuff. I want to buy 80 of these products and then realize, oh, students hate that product. And so we're just buying things as we go along, and then we can get student feedback. And so right now, what you're seeing is this, all the furniture just got moved from downstairs. So it's just like temporary hanging out there. So.
Yeah, this is not you'll see this a little bit later. When we do a project, the Sandbox is a great example. When we do a project, it's always an iterative process. We're never finished building a classroom, which is great because we live in a time where the tools that you use in the classroom are evolving so rapidly that you want to give yourself the breathing room to, when something new comes, put it in, and just put it in, put it in, and put it in, and reiterate over and over and over again. We've switched out the projectors in the Sandbox. We used to have one that hung from the middle. Now they're all ultra short throws on the wall.
I was all excited when the interactive projectors came out. I'm thinking, this is going to be awesome. I got the Sandbox, I got the projectors, I'll make them interactive. And faculty and students hated it because they would just touch the wall and stuff would go everywhere and things were flying and they couldn't figure it out. And they're like, can you just turn that off? Because I just want an expo marker and, you know, projection on the wall. I'm good. So.
Yeah, I'll never forget the day that I decided that touch interactivity wasn't the thing to do anymore. I was presenting on 4 of these projectors using Epson's EasyMP wireless video, whatever it's called. And I had my presentation up there and it kept advancing on its own. What is going on? I'm like on my computer, like, what's wrong? And then I realized that I had a student that was leaning up against the wall in a chair, and he was hitting that laser grid that's over the projection, and that was registering as a click on my presentation. So I had this kid over there like, oh yeah, and it's just So I walked over and I just unplugged the little box and said, I'm done with that. We're not doing that anymore. So major gift, a minor problem, and what turns out to be a surprisingly obvious solution. Classrooms don't need walls. You don't need walls in your classroom. And this is not just like, you know, we're going to have a completely open space, but we said we're losing a classroom, but we're gaining a learning commons. Why can't we just schedule classes in this space? Why can't you just have a class meet here and have the whole thing be out in the open? Now, some of the things that are in the learning commons, can we give a class everything they might possibly need? Because we've got study rooms, little individual breakout study rooms. We've got a makerspace. We've got this green screen lightboard studio. And we've got a speech lab. This is our control room back here. And then we've got this big 70-inch television up there. And so this is actually a live feed of what's happening in that room. So you can always watch what's happening in there. You can record it and you can play it back to the students. So can we schedule a class in this open space and then put all of these resources at the students' fingertips, as well as the resources that are there in the library? Our human resources like our librarians, our tech librarians, our research librarians, and then on top of that, the books that are left, you know, we've got the reference books and we have some stacks, but we're fewer and fewer books in libraries these days. We didn't invent that, everybody's doing that. So let's talk about these spaces a little bit. First of all, the study rooms. And we've talked to a few people about this. Our Epson projectors, we have all Epson projectors all over campus. And we use Epson's EasyMP software. We plug the projector into the network, and then students can wirelessly access that using the EasyMP program. It's a free download. Epson provides it. And Epson's not the only company that does this. Most projectors have some sort of networked protocol that you can use and download an app. And you can go from your phone or from the Chromebook or from Mac or Windows or whatever. So, go ahead.
The one caveat here is, it does this well. What it doesn't do well is video. But we really said that what people are doing 90% of the time is they're throwing up just static images, and I want to be able to write on the static image or go through my presentation, look at a website, do those kind of things. And so we figured, okay, that's fine. So we put in just a small Extron switch on the corner there, turn the projector on and off, and they just choose wireless, gives them an IP address, and they connect right up. So that's a Mac, but you can use Mac, PC, Chromebooks, Android phones, and then iPhones, a little bit limited by Apple, but other than that, works pretty well.
Yeah, and the projectors are great. We have them default to wireless mode so that they throw up not just an IP address that you can put in via the app, but also a QR code that you can scan with your phone, and boom, and you're up. So now there is a little bit of background to this. We do go in and train freshmen in their freshman seminar classes to use this product. It's about 15 minutes. Dan and I have got it down to a science now where we take over one of the projectors, we do the Google search, click this button, and then download, and then we make all the students get on a projector in the room, because these rooms have 5 or 6 projectors in them. And then that way, we saturate the students with the skill right out of the gate. And so we've got faculty that make great use of these multi-display sandbox classrooms and don't know how to use the wireless projection tool, because they just say to the student, hey, Billy, I want you over there. Or somebody from this group, get your Google Doc up on that wall. But the downstream effect of that is that all we do is we put these projectors in the room and do nothing else. And students just show up and use them because they already understand how to connect to the projector. So these study rooms...
well, and so, and if they go in there and they don't want to use a projector, it just sits above the whiteboard, so it doesn't really matter. So you can use it or not, regardless. So.
Yeah, just press the off button on that little switch there and it goes away. Like, it's great. And this is not staged. This just randomly happens in all of these rooms all the time. You go down there, and the great thing about it is we've got these windows over here on the rooms and open doors so that as you walk by, you can see the students in there and see the work that they're doing. And this creates a culture of scholarship and a culture of engaged work that, we can't find open study rooms. We could build, I honestly believe we could build an entire building of these study rooms and they'd just be full all the time because people love them. So yeah, we've got the study rooms right there in the space. Yeah, I'm going to play just a quick thing. This is a student who was working in one day and agreed to let me talk to her on camera. So,
this room is really helpful because I'm like a kinesthetic learner, and so just like writing things out and like talking to myself is like really helpful. The color just helps like things like stand out, or like it just sticks more, like different colors and it all looking the same. I actually draw images, which helps like making it different or unique. So yeah.
So we had a really interesting discussion for a while after that, where she talked about remembering that like the cardiovascular notes, she's a nursing student, so the cardiovascular notes were in green. And so when she's actually on a test, the color, the differentiation in color helps her visually remember in her mind what she was learning. And not to mention the process of writing all of this out takes a lot of time. And doing that, the process of putting all those notes on the wall has a really positive impact on retention. There's research that says that, not specifically this. I kind of want to do that research at some point, so we'll see. I had to build this place first. Yeah, those are the study rooms for both individual and collaborative work.
This room is really helpful because it's like really helpful. The color.
Gotta get back in the right thing. Okay, here we go. The makerspace. It's where you can turn ideas into objects, and we've got AV people here, so y'all are going to appreciate this. Has anybody seen one? Did anybody know what this is? Anybody tell me what it is? Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's a Bose ceiling-mounted speaker that goes flush with the panel. And we have a lot of these on campus because
So we have a lot of them on campus. We've kind of standardized on that. And so oftentimes if I need to change a room or I'll dismantle a room, I might grab a couple students, hey, help me out. Students go up in the ceiling, unscrewed my speakers. There's little clamps and then the screws. But they actually just took the screws and the clamps and just dropped the speaker and then walked off. And so I went to go put them back, and I had these 4 speakers, but I had no screws and no clamps. So I'm like, well, okay, I can't really hang it without any screws and clamps. So I went to Ryan, and I'm like, okay, Ryan, here's one where I've got this white clamp, and what I need is I need you to print me something that I can then screw on there. And so
I got out, and Dan made fun of me for using a tape measure. He's like, I can get you some, a caliper. Yeah, he's like, I'll get you a caliper. And I'm like, no, I got this tape measure, it's fine. And so we iterated a couple times. The first one didn't have enough length, or like I had miscalculated, and it wasn't exactly right. The next one was exactly right, but we couldn't find screws that were as long as this, so we had to lengthen this part in the end to, here, I'll show you the finished product at work. This is the speaker actually mounted with the 3D printed flange, I don't know what these things are called, but with the 3D printed pieces. And we were actually able to, because we didn't have screws that were as long as the original screws, we just lengthened the housing down here. But we were able to do all of that with the 3D printer. So like we took this problem that we had and we solved it in our makerspace. And this is a way to get students thinking outside the box and to get them thinking about how they can manufacture their own things using these tools. Another application is in the studio downstairs. We had got this cool arm, but it had a VESA mount for a monitor, but I wanted to put a camera on it. So I went out to Thingiverse, I got the VESA mount, and then I got another piece from a tripod, like a printable tripod, and then I just put a cube in between them in the 3D CAD program. And now I can mount my camera on the VESA mount, and I just printed that out and put it there. And then I put it back out on Thingiverse, and people started printing it. And they were like, this is so cool. So, and then finally, I was talking to our chemistry department. Who knows what this is? Does anybody know what this is? Say that louder. Electron path, right, orbitals. So this is the nucleus of an atom, and these represent all the possible places that an electron might be. I don't really understand this, but I was able to understand the shapes that they needed and how they might change in relation to one another. So I was in a class in a professor's office, and I saw these things, and I'm kind of in the back of my mind, I'm like, we got to find academic use for these 3D printers. You know, we have to do stuff. There's got to be stuff for it. So as I'm walking out, she's got these orbitals that are like mounted on a board, and I was like, hey, would you, you need more of those? Would we 3D print them? And she said, yeah, that would be awesome. This is $100 orbital set. Like, you go online to order these things, and it's $100 for something that's like really static. But what we were able to do is we printed this nucleus. Now, these can change, right? So you've got x-axis and y-axis, and then this is the z-axis, and you've got those labeled. And the orbitals are always the same shape, but their orientation to the axes changes. And that's how, that's I don't know why it's significant. It matters, and students need to learn it. But they can go this way, and then this hole right here, you can flip it and put them flat and reorient them that way. And so what we were able to do was to take what was 5 models and then make one model that could be modified. So you could change it around to all of the different things. So now we printed a classroom set of them, and she says, show me the Z2, I don't really know, but show me this. And the students change the models themselves on their tables, and she can come around and say, yeah, now look, there's a reflective plane here, and this is, yeah, so that was really cool. I was really excited about that. But that's the idea for the makerspace, and we've had a lot of students printing cool stuff in there, but we're really trying to turn it into an academic thing rather than sort of just a neat thing. And we think by putting classes in this place where the makerspace is directly accessible to them, we're hoping to tighten that integration between academics and 3D printing. And the studio. So this is Mr. Semperman. He's the donor that funded this, and he came to see what's going on. Now this is a pretty standard lightboard studio and green screen studio. There's nothing all that revolutionary about it, but it does give us our confidence monitor. We've got a Blackmagic ATEM switcher. And all of this is our feed of the live view of all the feeds. We got this Mac running the whole thing, and then we've got the confidence monitor up there, so you can see in real time what's happening as you're recording your video. So this is also going to have a light board in it. We haven't built the light board yet. We just got the material for it. So I'll show you just kind of here's a video I made there's no sound here. This is just kind of fun to watch. Here's a nursing professor who's giving a presentation for students. She's recording a video. And then there's me here demoing. I've got my iPad plugged in to the HDMI feed, and I'm using Explain Everything. I don't know if anybody's seen that tool before, but I'm using Explain Everything. And then we've got the ability to overlay images. So this is an image that's over top of my actual video feed, and then I'm drawing on the background to annotate inside that image. I don't know what that means, but it looked cool at the time. So just to kind of show you what the capability is. So the idea here is that this is, again, in that classroom space. You can, in the middle of class, walk into that studio and make a presentation. Why do you have to schedule it in the library, leave class, and go use it at some other time? Why can't we just stop in the middle of class and say, okay, group A, I need you guys to go into the studio and make your presentation about this topic real quick, and have that be all integrated in the class session itself. So there's a problem with videos in your presentation. So the speech lab. Dan, go ahead and talk to us about this, what we've got on the screen here.
Yeah, they wanted a room where they could go in there and record themselves, have a confidence monitor, and then we would take that recording and then allow it to be assessed and build scaffolding around it. At the same time, I was working on a project for our nursing sim lab. So we need to do something for our nursing sim lab. We need to integrate some cameras and everything else. And so I thought, well, that would be cool. I can take the same kind of concept and software that I'm using for the nursing sim lab and put it in my speech lab. Because basically there I'm going to capture 2 video feeds of the presenter, and then I can also capture all the content that they're presenting, put that in, and then build assessment around it, where then it stays on our network, they get a link, teacher can go in there, do markers, they can do feedback back and forth, and so on and so forth. So we just put the system together. Again, we're just all playing with this stuff right now, so this is all brand new to us. So this is just a screenshot of what we're doing for nursing, but the whole idea is to put it back in the speech lab as well.
So yeah, Weeboo, you want to talk about?
Yeah,
Weeboo?
and then I guess that's more from the, what I would say that the faculty side. So we're actually going to be recording, X student in the speech lab doing these things. But what if a student wants to go in there and just record themselves and give that video directly to a faculty member, simple and easy? And we talked, they could use Zoom. There's also some products out there. This is Weeboo out of British Columbia, and cheap way to students can record themselves, and as an MP4, upload it into the system, and then you can build assessment right around that with markings and different things. There's another program out there, if you want to hit the next thing there, Go React, and this is out of, anybody using Go React? Okay, and that, yeah, out of Utah. But again, this is from the student side, so we're trying to empower the students to do whatever they want, whenever they want, on the fly. And they can use this for nursing things. If they want to go in there and practice on a nursing sim lab, they can record themselves, easily give that to the faculty member. But then we can build assessment around it. So it's not just a video, but it's got some stuff that can make the learning really happen. So that's 2 standpoints. We're looking back from the faculty side, the staff side, and then as well as the student side.
But we talked about communication tutoring, and that's what the speech lab is for. Like, these are all destinations for those student videos, places that you can go in and mark up and annotate. But the students themselves in this Learning Commons can go into this room and actually record themselves and view it on that television. You can actually have your comm tutor record, okay, give your presentation, I'm going to record it, and then right then I'm going to play it back on this big display right in front of you and say, stop. Wait a minute, right here, you see like your turned away from your audience, or you're not making eye contact with the people in the room, or maybe you're not making the use of the visual aid as well as you could, let's try it again and record it. And that iterative, for us, that iteration is what makes you really good at something. We integrate that ethos into our classroom builds and into our instructional design. We want our students to integrate that ethos into whatever they're doing in life, because it's what makes you great at what you do. So here's just a shot of the space. We got a big whiteboard wall, so they can whiteboard in there. We've got a laser projector in there. Again, we haven't done the furniture yet. We're totally accepting that this is, like I said, an iterative process, and we want to make sure that we get the right furniture. So we've had students vote on furniture. We've put up pictures and had, as they come through the library, put a dot on this or put a dot on that.
So what we decided on for that room is we have some tables coming. They are hydraulic tables, so they're sit stand, but just through hydraulics, the easy thing. They've got a nice big workspace for them. They also do a flip, but they flip at an angle. Because they flip at an angle, and then we have some with whiteboard surfaces on it, so then you could actually roll that up to another surface and have a movable whiteboard that then is a flippable right at that level, and it's at an angle, so you can easily write on it. And so we're trying to think of what can we do that's flexible. I don't want a furniture for just one purpose. I want it to have many purposes. And so in that room, I can also take that same furniture and do it like a tiered room. So I can put 30 kids in there as a tiered classroom with different levels. And when you buy the seats, that can adjust for that as well. So I'm giving the students all kinds of options to do things. Or they can all flip and then just slide away into the side of the room. So then I've got a wide open room to do whatever I need to do as well.
So video conferencing integrated right into the space. Gets us.
It'll look a lot better, really. Just throwing this stuff. This is really like last week, just so you know. Okay.
Yeah. So you can see this is the open space over here that we had at the beginning, where we're actually going to schedule the classes, and there's not even actually a door to this video conferencing space. You can just go right in there. We've got that new Logitech product, the Meetup, put in right there. That's a 70-inch television, and then we've got this HDMI cord is what students are using right now. It's really classy cable management.
Yeah, really classy. Yeah.
But we've got these. We're going to put panels in here. We're going to have integrated cables and switching and everything. So that's where we're headed. But we thought, why wouldn't you have a video conferencing space available to students in a classroom like this, or not a classroom, a class space? Maybe you need to do an interview with somebody that's halfway across the world, and we already have done this in our nursing classes. There's a community-oriented nursing class that talks about how you have to take into account different cultural expectations when you're nursing across the world. So they interview nurses from Norway and from Kenya and from New Zealand and from all over the place. So they say, here's what we had to do. In Kenya, you can't just go out and say, here's a public health notice, because there's certain cultural considerations that you have to take into account, avenues of communication that you have to work with. And so we wanted to make that really easy to do. So far, we've always just, we'll come in and we'll put a camera in a classroom, and that works out fine. But it's really good to have this dedicated space available during that class time. Open spaces. So I'm going to let her explain it. This was a student that was studying down there.
I really like how light it is. I love the light quality in here, and that it just feels comfortable.
Yeah, it's really opened up now.
Yeah, I love the open spaces.
That's
and
great.
that you can close yourself off in different rooms.
So yeah, she's talking about the study rooms, but also about, before we had stacks. This was all stacks. But we had these great floor-to-ceiling windows thanks to the 70s, and we wanted to take advantage of that light. And if anybody's ever been to our campus, we're fortunate to be on a hill in western Montana. There's mountains all around. It's like one of those things, you want to feel like you're part of the environment. And getting rid of the stacks and opening the space up, literally knocking down the walls, has given us the opportunity to do that. And that sort of leads into, this isn't just a classroom space, this is also a living space for the students. And that's one of the things that you have to take into account with a modern library, is that students want to come in there and live there. They want to take their shoes off. They want to take naps. They want to drink coffee. They want to like game sometimes. They want to like, there's all kinds of stuff going on in here. So for this student and for other students, I've got another video that I'll show you to kind of touch on that. So what we did is we sort of had like I said, we iterate. We do things step by step by step. So we open the place for students. That's the study rooms, the speech lab, the open space, and limited access to that studio because we're still kind of building it. And then the next step is faculty awareness. So we get classes in there for discrete projects. You're going to spend a week in here, you're going to do this project, do some video production or presentation aids. And then the full deployment phase is where we have the tutoring staff available, full-time classes, room scheduling for those study rooms, and after-hour student support. This is our timeline of where we are. You're here in April 2019. But we finished construction in January. The technology was mostly installed in March. In June 2019, the first online classes are going to feature SLC studio videos. But as soon as construction was done, we opened it for students. It was half-baked. We didn't have all the furniture in there. We didn't have everything in there. But we just opened it up, and students went and started using it. They didn't really need anything else from us other than to make the space. Now we're in this faculty awareness phase where we're getting faculty to know what is a learning commons. We're explaining how does it improve your classes, what are the resources that you can do. Now when I'm doing instructional design with faculty, I'm taking into account these spaces very deliberately and saying, here's what you should do with this space. This summer we're going to have online classes that are going to be really built around small chunked videos from the studio, 5-10 minute videos with interactivity online. And then in August, we're going to have the first full-time classes. We're going to have those faculty members actually located there. And and then in December, we're going to reflect. We're going to get our faculty together and say, how's this space working for you? What did it do? What can we do better? What do you need to change about your design? What are you going to tell your colleagues about this space and how it can improve their teaching and learning? So yeah, that's kind of our timeline there. So yeah, to put it all together, the Learning Commons is so many things to so many people at so many different times. It's, of course, significant scholarship is the central thing that we're going for. We want students to make learning artifacts. We want students to have significant learning experiences. But in order to do that, it's got to be a livable space. You have to have the students to be able to be in there. Scheduled classes, group work, tech resources, media production, independent study. All of that stuff is happening in the space at the same time. If you think about the Learning Commons as your living room, which a lot of students do, they spend a lot of time there, it's like class appears in the space that you're in already and that you're already comfortable in. It's not like, oh, I have to go to this classroom that may or may not be comfortable or maybe too hot or maybe it's and I have to go all the way across campus for it. If you're just in the library studying all day, which a lot of students are, class just comes to you. And then I put Dan and I up here. We're orbiting, just making sure it's all working. So here are a couple of students, again, in the Learning Commons in one of the independent study rooms. And I was just kind of talking to them, and I wanted to share what they had to say with it in this vein.
I really like that there is a lot of various aspects that we can do. So we have the rooms with the bigger tables and the whiteboard on the wall. We have the movable whiteboards. We've also got the rooms with the tables that move up and down. Basically, whatever kind of space you want, it's here for you. Even the little nooks and crannies over there with the bookshelves.
Do you guys come down here often?
Every day.
Yeah, we joke with those students that we're going to put, this one study room is their office. We're going to print out a plaque and put it on there, and they can have their office space. And it's great because these two students in particular, actually, we were interviewing for a director of the library. We needed a new library director, and these students went to all of the interviews and came and gave us input on who they thought should be the next library director. So that investment in the space from the students really makes it special and a great place to have class. So
I really like that there is.
that's it. Thank you very much, and we'll take any questions that
So,
you guys
yeah,
have.
just to come back to the classroom, breaking down the walls. So the classroom is over here. It was a small classroom, maybe seating 20, 25 students. And like most institutions, you guys are retooling and trying to grow. We're trying to increase that enrollment. There's only so many students that can fit in that classroom. So now, by opening it up and saying this classroom is now an area, I can increase the enrollment in that class, and that can make it like a 30, 35, even a 40-seat classroom for the registrar, which then gives more flexibility. So.
Yeah, and if this is our meeting space, this is the open space over here, then these study rooms are available when you need to do breakout work. The lab, the studio, and the speech lab are behind this wall, kind of over here. And then there's more study rooms sort of around the back of that, and the video conferencing space is back there. So it's all one space.
Yeah, right.
Dan, I'll talk
Toss in the catch box.
Oh, sorry.
So you've got open times, classroom times. What's your plan of how to manage that? If I'm a student and I come in here and start living in my study space, and then all of a sudden a whole bunch of kids show up, other students, like, hey, it's our class time, get out. Or, how are you going to manage that overlap?
Great question. And so, what we've noticed, we're a small campus, so we really don't have a lot of library usage typically in the mornings. It just seems to be down a little bit, and so there's a lot of other spaces too. So we're gonna limit this classroom to be like just maybe in the morning hours, so like maybe an 8 to 1 time frame, and then we'll just post that and we'll say, okay, after this certain time frame, whatever that is, it's just the students at that point.
During class time, formal class time, all these spaces are tied up as well, or dedicated to that class time, not free access for students. Even though the class may not be utilizing the makerspace, it's still kind of off limits during that time.
I think we're gonna figure this out, to be honest with you. So, I mean, we haven't worked it out yet, so we'll see. This is just an idea. We're just trying it. We've got some faculty members that are interested in experimenting with it, and so I'm sure there'll be some pitfalls, but that's definitely one of them. Yeah. So I'll come back next year and tell you.
Yeah, and that's one of the things, we don't want it to be, it's like we're not going to put up a sign and say there's class going on here, nobody can come in. Like, as far as I'm concerned, students can be using one of those study rooms, and then if you need to use it, you can just say, hey, we're going to do class breakout time here. Would you mind moving across the space? And again, it's all about creating a culture of respect and collaboration. So we want the students to understand without us having to, and we do this with everything. Like, you go into, if you've ever gone into a space and there are little signs on everything, it's like, put this back when you're done with it, or don't turn off this light switch, or, this table needs to stay here, or we have taking a really strong stance against doing that in the library. Nothing is labeled, nothing says you have to be quiet here, you have to do this here, you have to do that here, because we don't want to limit the way that students are learning. Students all learn in different ways, and as conflict arises, which we don't have a lot of conflict in that way in the library, but if it does, we want the people who are involved to work out a collaborative solution. That this is a culture thing. It's not just like we have wireless keyboards just sitting around. We have, the projectors are mounted on the walls, and there's computers, and there's all kinds of stuff. And a lot of people are like, well, we need to lock that down. We need to put a thing on that, and we just don't. And that's just the way that the culture is, and the way that we use it. So we're kind of going to rely on that to make this space usable both for the class and for the individual student. It's kind of radical openness.
Yeah.
I love that thing.
Sorry. Okay, so curious about the makerspace, and how do you fund it currently? And do you have a model for how you might fund it in the future? Because right now I have a makerspace, but I've paid for it up to this point, but now I'm getting to the point where my grant funding will end, and I'm looking at different ways to work out how I'm going to keep the materials flowing.
Yeah. Dan's the money guy.
That's a good question. honest, I'm in the same boat you are. I had a grant that's been funded up to this point, and so yeah, we're trying to figure that out as to where we're going to head next, and whether it's course fees that help maintain it, or it comes from academics, or IT's. Yeah, we're not quite sure how that's all going to play out. So is yours pretty much open fund? I mean, can students go in there? Are they paying for the filament? Are you doing all that, and you're just? Yeah, see, that's we're doing the same thing, but it could be really expensive down the road. Right now, not too bad. Yeah. Sorry, I don't have an answer for you on that one.
I've thought about trying to monetize the actual 3D printing to pay for the stuff. So maybe we can make items that are unique that we can sell in our campus store, or we can. I thought about even like printing a lot of those orbital sets and selling those online because they're expensive, and we can produce them for like $1.15. So.
I think initially, back in the 80s, I did a lot of screen printing, and so I'm going to put a screen printing thing in there, and we do have a lot of student organizations that need T-shirts and, softball weekend, or, whatever it is, they want team shirts, and so if I can have some way for them to come in there and do their own stuff, and maybe monetize it that way a little bit, where they can kind of but it's only $10 or something, so I don't know, we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, the main ongoing cost is the filament, which isn't, and it's really not all that expensive. Like, it's not a huge ask to have filament, but you want to have something in the budget to make sure.
Does anybody else have a makerspace that they're doing this in, that they're funding, or have stuff for? No? Oh, okay. Wow. All right. Any more questions? Yeah. I was just out there looking at Cambridge just today. So yeah, I think that's something that we're gonna put in. So have you used that, and has it been successful?
We're looking to also build a study place, and so I was going to see if you guys are using sound masking. I would be interested in seeing how you're using it. We're using a waveguide to actually design our space, and we're actually talking to Cambridge right now in what that design would look like.
All right. Any other questions? Well, great. Thank you for coming. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dave.